Graduates Conversations podcast.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our All Graduates Conversations podcast. And today I am very, very lucky to have Mark Painting with me, who is the CEO from NAATI. And welcome, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Fatih. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming. I'm sure you are very, very busy, so I really appreciate making the time to chat to us today.
No trouble.
All right. We said Mark is the current CEO of NAATI, and I just want to ask you, Mark, what is NAATI and what do they do, especially for those new practitioners out there? I mean, I'm sure majority of our listeners would know what NAATI is and what they do, but just as a bit of an introduction.
Sure, thanks, Fatih. And yes, I certainly hope most of the existing practitioners are well aware, but essentially NAATI is the national certifying authority for people working in the translating and interpreting profession in Australia. And as a general rule, you need to hold a NAATI certification to work in most public services in Australia. Most people don't understand that the core purpose of NAATI's existence is really about providing a level of confidence to the consumers. So the people who need the services of a translator interpreter, having some sort of standards authority means that they can have confidence in knowing that this person working for them or helping them is appropriately qualified and suitable.
Very good, thank you. And Mark, how long have you been with NAATI? I understand today marks a bit of a milestone for you.
Yes. I'm just about to have the next day or so my 5-year anniversary, Fatih. So it seems like a while ago, and a lot has happened in that time. But I've enjoyed it, and it's a fascinating industry. I'm so impressed with the professionalism and dedication and the passion for which people have for their work in this industry.
I've been an interpreter since 2015, and you were the first CEO that I knew. And it's definitely been a wonderful last 5 years. And it's been especially probably quite challenging for you the past 6 months or so, hasn't it?
Yes, indeed. Yes, the whole period has been challenging for different reasons. The challenges of more recent times are, of course, out of our control, and it continues to throw up challenges. The COVID pandemic, and we continue to find ways around that and keep adapting. But luckily, we've built some real agility and flexibility into our system that's helping us, at least enabling us to continue business.
Very good. If it's okay with you, Mark, let's scale it back a couple of years to the start of 2018. I'd like to speak to you about the certification system. I guess we can still call it the new certification system. Now, why did we need to change our system from the accreditation system to the certification system? I mean, what happened? What pushed you to make this decision? And how long was the actual time when you were preparing for this? How long did it take?
Thanks, Fatih. Very good question. And look, the old system, or the accreditation system as we used to know it, had been around for around about 30 years and had been subject to practically little or no change in that whole time. So initial work undertaken, I think probably around the 2012-13 mark by a group of esteemed professionals in the industry in Australia made some recommendations. And I guess that kicked off a journey of professionalism. So one of the underlying drivers of the change was really about trying to take this industry and see it as a modern profession. And so the recommendations of that report, were focused around the testing, but there was much more than that, and also made recommendations about training requirements prior to testing, the need for specializations, and also the ongoing professional development requirements. So we also wanted out of it a single national universal system where every practitioner in the industry basically had the same requirements, irrespective of how you got certified or when you got it or what pathway you chose to get there. And so that started a lot of planning work and over a number of years. And whilst the initial focus was very much around the test and the fitness for purpose of the test itself and how that might be improved, the further we went into that, the more we realised that just changing that alone, will fix some things, but it actually won't be sufficient to have the impact we needed. So lots of other developments grew from that, and we realise, if we want the industry to be perceived as a profession, and NAATI is a central player in that, then we also had to do a lot of work internally about our systems and processes and our method of engagement with stakeholders and so forth. So whilst we're doing lots of work on the design and development around new tests and setting up the certification system, we're also doing a lot of work internally on improving our systems and processes and technology and various things. So it turned out to be a much bigger project, because it ended up being essentially a transformation across the board, and so that's why it has been, a very, very tough 5 years, but a very rewarding one, because we're now starting to see some benefits of that.
Very good. I've definitely, as a practitioner and a trainer, I can definitely see the benefits of the new system already in regards to the training of the interpreters too, and the translators, of course. So congratulations on the entire team that has been involved over the last 5 years, and then beyond that as well, where you said initially was 2011, 2012. So thank you on behalf of all the practitioners and trainers out there for this transition period.
Thanks. And I should just mention a couple of other benefits that come out of that. One of the real problems we had was data. Both in terms, when we went into this, we had no idea how many, because people had no need to keep engaged with NAATI as such, we had no real means of knowing what the real, how many practitioners were actually out there. We knew how many people had been certified over 30 or 40 years, but not how many were necessarily
current. How many was
current.
Actually working?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because people had no need to keep engaged, and we had, people who we knew who had anecdotally had information that had passed away, but of course they're still in the system, people who had retired or moved on, and other people who got an accreditation on the old system for reasons other than wanting to work in the profession. So, our system said we had tens of thousands, like 70 or 80,000 technically current practitioners, and we knew that was just not right. So the data we have now, we can give exact numbers on the profile of the workforce by language and location pretty quickly.
When you say for other purposes, do you mean, for example, people who are doing it for immigration purposes?
Yeah, so people who got an accreditation, it enabled them to get some points, some migration points toward the points-based visa. And that was fine, but what it meant was these people were getting accreditation and therefore appearing in the official statistics with no real intent of working. So one of the other changes we made in the system was we designed a separate test called the Credentialed Community Language Test, and that is a test of language proficiency, and we have that as a separate part of the business, and people do that and they get their letter to say they've been tested, but they never enter our system as a certified practitioner in the profession.
That makes a huge difference. That way you know exactly who is doing the practitioner work, who isn't, and from the practitioners that are doing the work, you know exactly how much work they're doing and where they're doing it.
Yeah, and if they don't remain in the profession, they don't keep working, they'll naturally drop off because of the recertification process. So our data will be pretty reliable. And the other very important part about our data is the information we have on the test itself and the performance of candidates. Because we have really good recordings, we have information on all of the, right down to the task level across the board, of aggregated data of the tasks and the particular areas that are causing the most challenge for candidates. And that, because what we've designed this system in a way where it's designed for ongoing review and improvement, that we can make little changes along the way without having to make a massive change after 30 years like last time. So we'll be sharing some of that aggregated data with training institutions over the next few months, and that'll give them information on the sort of tasks and areas where the students from that institution are finding the most difficult. So we do have a really good stock of valuable data.
That way, everything from the trainer point of view and NAATI's point of view, we can update as needed with all this data that's coming through and its evaluation.
Yeah, Yeah, so evaluation is a really key part, and we've now got enough. We've got several thousand tests in the system, so we're getting to that point of having enough to start doing some of that work.
Magnificent. Well done on that. Well, in regards to interpreters transitioning from accreditation to certification, I mean, how successful was the transition period? Did you have everyone transition? Was there anyone left behind? I mean, and like, what pushed the practitioners to transition? What encouraged them? What happened if they didn't?
Yeah, well, I'll start in reverse order. So the motivations we had there for people to transition, and clearly we wanted everyone because we want everyone in the system. There was no cost to do so. So basically, people just had to demonstrate that they were actually working, and as long as they did that, they could transition over. And we had the period open for more than 2 years, about 2.5 years altogether. The first year or so of that was at no cost, and then after that we introduced a small admin fee. But basically, as all people had to do was demonstrate they were working. The motivations there was that also upon certification, people who were interested in being listed on the online NAATI directory, which was most people, that was all included. So they used to pay for that separately. That was included, and also products like interpreter ID cards and translator stamps are all provided at no cost. So as a bit of incentive to get people over, and of course that is our plan to continue on that way as well. So in terms of numbers, like I said before, we didn't have a good handle. We only had anecdotal evidence. We knew the number of existing practitioners out there was definitely not the 70 or 80,000 according to our system. We thought that it was somewhere closer to 10.
Wow, that was the gap we're talking about.
Yeah,
so
the data was completely because it had everyone that had ever been certified, accredited rather, from essentially the start. So yeah, so we knew we were estimating somewhere around the 8 to 10,000. By the end of the transition period, which is now closed, we had a little over 13,000 actually transition. So it's possible that some of them might not be that current, but did so to hedge their bets. But like I said, it's still much better. If they don't maintain working, they'll naturally fall off. So there would have been
to retire and move on to other things if they want to as well. I guess this is a way. If they don't want to work anymore, they just don't recertify.
And if they don't recertify, they'll fall off the numbers because our numbers are essentially current, up to date on a daily basis, so we can get that all the time. So they will just naturally fall off, and we'll maintain a reasonably accurate picture of the profile of the workforce. And as you said, that yes, there are some that still chose not to. We respect their decision to do so. I think it's unfortunate that some didn't. There is no doubt that as certification becomes the standard in the industry and normal, government policies and other will show preference to that, and we're seeing that happen. So we think the vast majority did, but we can't know an exact number, but we know there are a few that didn't, and that's unfortunate, but we respect their decision to do so.
Well, we're saying, especially in regards to government jobs, we can say almost all government jobs require certification now.
Yeah, well, certainly by policy they do. The extent that is implemented, we're not 100% sure about, but certainly that is the intent. And over time, the respective governments, and of course they're not all the same. There are nine jurisdictions, so they have all slightly different policies. But you can see them gradually updating and strengthening the policy around certification. So we think that will help.
Very good. So if they've missed out, do they get a chance to certify again, you think?
Yeah, well, to do so, they would require, of course, so they can't transition anymore because after 2.5 years, we think, in fairness to the people that did come on early, that we need to draw a line somewhere and we need to consolidate the system and move on. So there's not an opportunity anymore to transition an old credential, but anyone that had one is, of course, eligible to apply for and have to do a certification test.
So they just have to go through the testing process again, but their previous accreditation will make them eligible. They wouldn't have to go.
It will help because clearly they've already, by having accreditation previously, they've already demonstrated they meet some of the prerequisite requirements like intercultural and ethical competency, for example.
Very good. Thank you very much for clarifying that, Mark. Now, look, I don't want to talk too much about PD today because that will be another day that I'd like to talk to you about that in detail. Now, in your view, what is the importance of PD for an interpreter? As we know, we have to accumulate a certain amount of PD points from the 3 categories over 3 years. Why is it important, do you think, in your view, for an interpreter to have regular PD, to continue their professional development?
Yep. Thanks, Fatih. And it's a bit like, I guess, where I started about why certification in the first place. And I guess it was about that whole journey of turning what was what some people would describe as an amateur industry into looking more like a profession. And for most other professions we know, whether it's teaching or nursing or legal or whatever, those sort of inherent ongoing development requirements are pretty standard. So a profession that has those requirements looks and feels more like what a profession would look like. And we made the requirements, and as you said, we'll talk about that we could make a whole series of PD in its own right, so I'll talk more about the details later. But we think, and it was part of the original recommendation in the report, to have the ongoing PD requirements, mainly to start to look like that profession. And so we're working hard with the other industry stakeholders to make sure, because in fairness to the practitioners, if whilst we mandate it, it's important that we then work with the industry to make sure we can work on increasing the access, value and quality of those professional development opportunities. And like I said, we can talk much more about that later. But a key plank in it, and I said that the existence of NAATI is really about for the benefit of consumers, and it's important for anyone who requires an interpreter to engage in society, access public services whatever they need. What NAATI certification does for them, and PDs are a part of that, but what it does for those consumers, if they see someone that has NAATI certification, well, they immediately know, without doing any further sort of research or looking, but immediately know that the interpreter who's working with them has had some level of formal training, have had their skills independently assessed by NAATI through its test, that they have to abide by a professional code of ethics, that they are current in their practice, and they engage in ongoing PD. So I guess it's part of that package that gives confidence to people who rely on the services of translators and interpreters.
Very good. And I think in regards to turning our industry into a profession is quite obvious in the last few years. And I think both as training institutions and as NAATI, as well as the practitioners, I think, we're not there yet, but we're definitely on the right track in regards to turning our industry into a profession rather than occupation, or like you said, with an amateur approach as it was mostly seen back in the day.
And it has to be a journey. It's not going to happen really quickly. It's taken several decades, I guess, for some of the things to I guess, deteriorate, and so it's not going to turn around quickly, but we have to keep making positive, regular, incremental steps toward that.
And I guess, in time, I'm being a practitioner as well, and I'm sure all those practitioners listening out there, one day we'll see that all this will reflect with the remuneration as well, that, everyone's asking me, telling me, but why are we getting paid this much? And I think that's why when we turn it into a more of a professional industry, I think in time that'll catch up, that'll come with that as a package.
I hope so, and that's what certainly we'll be working toward. I don't think it's any secret that the remuneration for profession is pretty poor. Not something that we can control directly, but I think collectively all the key stakeholders can make a contribution toward that. And I think, like I said, it's a bit of a chicken and egg. Are we not paid enough because we're not a profession, or we're not a profession because we're not paid enough? And so I think making these gradual pushing on this journey and starting to get the respect of other professions that start to see it the same way will hopefully help that case.
Indeed, I'm confident we'll get there eventually. Now, just want to bring you back to what's happening these days with the whole COVID-19 situation, Mark. It's inevitable. I mean, wherever we go, wherever we look, we're constantly seeing new developments, and it's really hard to keep up with them. Within regards to NAATI, what are the updates with COVID-19? I mean, in Melbourne, we're in stage 3 now. We had testing, and I think they've been postponed again. With the PD points, I mean, work is not as much as it used to be. what's happening? What are the NAATI COVID-19 updates? Can you shed a little bit of light on those?
Yes, certainly. It's certainly been a challenge and continues to be. And every time we think we have a plan, something else changes to affect it. So our latest strategy is not necessarily to plan for anything, but just plan to be agile and adaptive, and have things in place. And it's been a real credit to our staff to be able to manage that, and our board of directors who have been really determined to do that. So, firstly, speaking of the board, and it's now public that the last meeting, the board approved a pretty substantial support package for practitioners in relation to the requirements for professional development and work practice. So for a 15-month period from April just gone, April 2020, right through till June 2021, the cost of the recertification will be only 50% of what would normally be the case. And the PD and work practice requirements will only be 2/3 of what would normally be the case as well. So we hope that provide a little bit of relief to some practitioners who are finding it a little bit difficult. And that was a significant announcement by the board, and it cost somewhere in the $500,000 to $750,000. So, but something we thought was really worthwhile to do. In terms of the testing environment, we have been working very hard on looking at alternatives. So obviously, for a period that looked like we couldn't test at all, and so we cancelled for good reasons. We have successfully been able to deliver some forms of testing online, and we started with doing our, I guess, the English proficiency testing initially, because it was an easier, less risk trial, and we were able to do that successfully. And just last week, we successfully actually ran several interpreter tests in an online platform. So we are now investing much further in that. And in terms of translator testing, we've postponed because we didn't want to bring large groups of people together for obvious reasons. Sometime from about September, we have invested in a new online platform. So translation testing will begin again sometime in September on a new online platform, so people won't come to the office at all. And we're continuing to develop a capability to be able to do interpreter tests the same way, or at least in part way. So in locations other than Melbourne, we actually have started or about to restart face-to-face interpreter testing. But because
we are jealous, Mark, here in Melbourne. We are jealous. Yeah.
Well, our team in Melbourne has done some, as I said, some great work with able to come up with some very innovative means around that, and they will form a lesson to other jurisdictions where we can't guarantee that another big city won't have same issues down the track. So, like I said, we're building that flexibility in and continuing to invest and develop our online capacity for the future as well.
Look, very good. I think what COVID has taught all of us is a lot of patience and adaptation skills. Right.
Indeed, we have become very familiar with Zoom and Microsoft Teams over the last number of months. Our team has worked very hard, including even our contracted examiners who do obviously work with marking and setting tests. We've been doing all of those workshops over video connection like this, and so lots of people have proven they've got some new skills, and we've all got a bit better at using it since we've started.
You think hopefully when things go back to normal, some of this remote connecting will still be around as part of our daily lives? Just without doubt.
Certainly for NAATI, there'll be some things we'll need to go that are more suited to face-to-face, but there are lots of work that will still be done over video. We need to save money. That will save us money on travel and other things, and everything we save we can try and help to put into improve the system. But there is no doubt this will make some permanent changes. I can't speak for the rest of the industry, but for NAATI, absolutely no doubt.
No, I think just for the general population, it's opened up a brand new page for us in communication and communicating with each other. Look, if you don't mind, Mike, I want to bring you back to the PD. Now, the NAATI website, I know it's been going under some updating recently as well. I mean, as a practitioner, can an interpreter or a translator get news of PDs off the NAATI website? I mean, is there this one website where a practitioner can go to see what's going on, as opposed to going through all the different kinds of PD providers?
Yeah, well, certainly, and thanks. Yes, our website had a major revamp and upgrade, and was relaunched in April, in amongst all of the COVID. So I encourage all your listeners and practitioners to keep a bit of regular contact with our website, because there's always news and events and updates on there. It does include everything we know about PD opportunities. I should be clear and acknowledge that it is not the only single place there are, but we're happy to pretty much support and promote any opportunity for professional development for any practitioner. So any provider that's got something on, we're happy to put it not only on our website, but also in our regular monthly NAATI newsletter. So if anyone is not already subscribed to the NAATI news, I would encourage to do so, because we put opportunities there as well. And of course, other providers, like some service providers, just like All Graduates. Of course, AUSIT are another one that do as well, yeah. And they usually let us know when they got something on, and we help promote it.
With the newsletter, do practitioners who are certified, do they automatically get it, or do they have to actually subscribe?
They subscribe. It's a pretty simple process. You just put your email. Most of them are on there already, but if they aren't getting it regularly, then yeah, you can subscribe to it via the website, and you'll get it every month.
TNIs out there, if you already haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to the NAATI newsletter and get all your latest NAATI information. Look, Mark, thank you so much for joining me today, and I want to say congratulations again on your 5-year anniversary, and we hope to see you around for many, many years to come. And again, thank you very much for your participation today.
Thank you very much, Fatih, and I look forward to when I can get out and see a few more people face to face again.
Well, we'll look forward to having you here in Melbourne, maybe not very soon, but hopefully in the near future.
In due course, yep.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to our Conversations podcast. This week I had Mike Painting, CEO of NAATI, and just reminding you as well, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as our podcast channels on Apple Podcast, Spotify and Google Podcast. For our upcoming webinars and PD opportunities, you can click on our website, which you can find in the episode description. Also, if you have any ideas, because I'll be interviewing practitioners as well, if you have any ideas and you want to be a guest here one day, drop me a line. My email address is fatih@allgraduates.com.au. That's FATIH @allgraduates.com.au. And maybe one day we'll be here and having a little bit of a chat. Thank you again so much, Mark. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and be well.
Thanks, Fatih. All the best.
And all the best. Bye-bye.
All Graduates Conversations podcast.